I stared at my phone screen, frozen in place as my daughter Emma's words echoed through our kitchen. At 54, I never expected to be caught in such an awkward situation. The dating profile picture of Catherine Wilson, Emma's 11th grade English teacher, smiled back at me from my phone. My thumb hovered over the screen, suddenly unsure whether to continue our conversation or delete the app altogether. Dad! Are you even listening to me? Emma's face was flushed with embarrassment. Her dark hair, so much like her mother's, was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and her eyes, my eyes, glared at me with teenage indignation. I heard you, Emma, I said quietly, setting my phone face down on our worn kitchen counter. The granite had been Sarah's choice, back when we'd renovated this suburban Philadelphia home 15 years ago. I'm just talking to her. We haven't even met in person yet. It's Ms. Wilson, Dad. My English teacher. Do you have any idea how weird this is for me? Everyone will find out, and I'll be a complete social outcast. She threw her hands up dramatically. I sighed, running a hand through my graying hair. After Sarah passed away from breast cancer 3 years ago, the house had felt impossibly empty. Emma and my son Daniel were the only things that kept me going through those dark days. Daniel was away at Penn State now, and Emma would be applying to colleges next year. The thought of being truly alone in this house made my chest tighten. Emma, I understand this is uncomfortable, but nothing. You need to end it now. This is my life too, you know. She grabbed her backpack from the kitchen chair. I'm going to Jess's house to study. Don't wait up. The front door slammed behind her, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the constant ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway, another of Sarah's choices. I picked up my phone again, looking at Catherine's message. Looking forward to getting to know you better, Jack. Coffee sometime this week? Catherine was attractive, intelligent, and kind in our messages. We'd connected over a shared love of history books and hiking the Appalachian Trail. After 3 years of loneliness, the possibility of companionship felt like finding water in a desert. But Emma's reaction had been stronger than I expected. Maybe she wasn't ready for me to move on. Maybe I wasn't either. With a heavy sigh, I typed back, I'd love to, but I should tell you something first. You're my daughter's teacher. I hit send before I could change my mind, then set my phone down and walked to the living room window. Outside, the early October leaves were starting to change color. Sarah had loved fall, the crisp air, the pumpkin festivals, the way our street transformed into a corridor of reds and golds. My phone buzzed on the counter. Catherine had replied almost immediately, Emma Harrison is your daughter? I had no idea. This complicates things. My heart sank as I read her words. Of course it complicated things. Everything about dating at my age was complicated, especially with teenage children still at home. I typed back, I understand if you'd rather not continue our conversation. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, let me think about it. Emma is a wonderful student. I wouldn't want to make things awkward for her. I respected that. Catherine was putting my daughter's comfort before her own interests, a quality Sarah would have appreciated. I'd worked my entire adult life to provide for my family, taking over my father's construction company at 30 and growing it into one of the most respected firms in eastern Pennsylvania. Sarah had been my rock through it all, managing our home and raising our children while I worked long hours. We'd planned to travel the world once the kids were grown, but cancer had stolen that future from us. The grandfather clock chimed 7 times, pulling me from my thoughts. I should eat something. Opening the refrigerator, I stared at the leftovers and pre-packaged meals, evidence of my bachelor existence. I settled on reheating some lasagna Emma had made yesterday. She'd been cooking more since Sarah died, stepping into the void her mother left behind in ways that both warmed and broke my heart. As the microwave hummed, my phone rang. Daniel's face appeared on the screen. I answered immediately, always eager to hear from my son. Hey, Dad, his voice sounded tired. Senior year engineering was taking its toll. How's it going? Oh, you know. Same old. How are classes? Brutal. But I'm managing. There was a pause. Emma texted me. Of course she had. The two of them had always been close, and with me working so much during their childhood, they'd formed their own little alliance. About Catherine? Yeah. Ms. Wilson. Dad, are you sure this is a good idea? Emma's pretty upset. I leaned against the counter, suddenly feeling every one of my 54 years. It was just a conversation, Dan. Nothing serious. But I don't think it's going anywhere now. Look, I get it. You're lonely. But maybe try dating someone who isn't Emma's teacher. There are plenty of women out there. Easy for him to say. Daniel hadn't watched his mother, his best friend, his partner of 30 years, waste away in front of him. Hadn't held her hand as she took her final breath. Hadn't slept alone in their bed for 3 years. I'll handle it, son. Don't worry about me. We just worry about you, Dad. You work too much, you're alone in that big house. I'm fine, Daniel. Really? The microwave beeped, and I welcomed the distraction. My dinner's ready. We'll talk this weekend? Sure, Dad. Love you. Love you too, son. After hanging up, I ate my lasagna at the kitchen island, scrolling through emails from work. A notification from the dating app appeared at the top of my screen. Against my better judgment, I opened it. Catherine had sent another message. Jack, would you be open to meeting for coffee anyway? Just to talk. I promised to keep it professional, and we can discuss how to navigate this situation. My heart lifted slightly. A chance to meet her in person, even if just for a conversation. Before I could respond, I heard Emma's key in the lock. She was home earlier than expected. Dad? Her voice sounded different, softer than when she'd left. In the kitchen, I called back, quickly closing the dating app. Emma appeared in the doorway, her expression apologetic. I'm sorry I freaked out earlier. It's okay, sweetheart. I understand why you were upset. She sat across from me at the island, fidgeting with the sleeve of her sweatshirt. Jess made me realize I was being selfish. She said. Emma swallowed hard. She said Mom would want you to be happy. The mention of Sarah from Emma's lips caught me off guard. We rarely spoke directly about her mother, both of us still carefully navigating around the hollow space she'd left in our lives. Your mother would want all of us to be happy, I said carefully. But your feelings matter to me, Emma. If this situation makes you uncomfortable, I won't pursue it. Emma looked down at her hands. Is Ms. Wilson nice? In your messages, I mean. I considered the question. Yes. She's kind, thoughtful. We've only been talking for a week or so, but I enjoy our conversations. She's a good teacher, Emma admitted. All the students like her. That's good to know. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of unspoken feelings hanging between us. Finally, Emma spoke again. If you want to meet her for coffee or whatever, it's okay. Just, maybe keep it quiet at school? At least until we figure out if this is, like, a real thing? Relief and gratitude washed over me. Of course. Thank you, Emma. She stood up, her moment of maturity apparently complete. I have homework. And Dad? Yes? Maybe delete that stupid profile picture with your fishing hat. It's embarrassing. I laughed, the tension breaking. Noted. After Emma went upstairs, I returned to Catherine's message. Coffee would be great. How about Saturday morning at Cornerstone Cafe downtown? Her reply came quickly, perfect. 10 a.m. Looking forward to it. Saturday arrived with clear skies and the crisp air of mid-autumn. I spent more time than I'd like to admit choosing a shirt, settling on a blue button-down that Sarah had always said brought out my eyes, and arrived at the cafe 15 minutes early. The nervousness I felt reminded me of my first date with Sarah 32 years ago, though back then I'd been a young construction worker with calloused hands and big dreams, not a widowed company owner with graying temples and reading glasses. I recognized Catherine immediately when she walked in. Her dating profile photos hadn't done her justice. She was taller than I expected, with shoulder-length auburn hair and a warm smile that reached her eyes. She wore jeans and a green sweater, casual but put together. "Jack," she said, approaching my table. I stood, suddenly aware of my racing heart. "Catherine. It's nice to meet you in person." We shook hands, a formal gesture that felt appropriate given the circumstances, and I pulled out her chair. After ordering our coffees, black for me, latte for her, an awkward silence fell between us. "So," she said finally, "Emma is your daughter?" "Yes. And this is probably very strange for you." Catherine smiled. "A bit. She's one of my best students, you know. Incredibly bright, especially when it comes to analyzing literature." Pride swelled in my chest. Sarah, my late wife, was an avid reader. She passed that love on to Emma. "I'm sorry about your wife," Catherine said gently. "Emma mentioned in class once that her mother had passed away." I nodded, grateful for her directness. 3 years ago. Cancer. That must have been incredibly difficult for all of you." "It was. Still is, sometimes." I took a sip of my coffee, appreciating that she didn't offer platitudes or prying questions. "Emma and Daniel, my son, he's at Penn State, they've been remarkable through it all. They sound like wonderful kids. You must be very proud." "I am." I smiled, realizing how easy it was to talk to her. Now, I should probably address the elephant in the room. "I understand if you'd rather keep this, whatever this is, strictly professional, given your relationship with Emma." Catherine considered this, running her finger around the rim of her mug. "I've been thinking about it a lot, actually. There's no explicit rule against teachers dating parents, but it does create a complicated dynamic." Completely understandable. "That said," she continued, meeting my eyes, "I've enjoyed our conversations, Jack. And I don't meet many men who can discuss the Civil War and long-distance hiking in the same message." I laughed, remembering our lengthy debate about the best sections of the Appalachian Trail. "Well, I'm full of useless knowledge." "Not useless at all. Interesting." She smiled, and I felt something stir within me, a feeling I'd almost forgotten. We spent the next hour talking about everything and nothing, our jobs, favorite books, places we'd traveled. Catherine had been teaching for 15 years after a brief career in publishing. She'd never married but had been engaged once, to a fellow teacher who ultimately took a job in California without her. She loved teaching 11th grade because, as she put it, the students are old enough to have real conversations but young enough to still be excited by new ideas. When we finally looked at our watches, both of us were surprised by how much time had passed. "I should get going," she said reluctantly. "I promised to meet a friend for lunch." "Of course." I hesitated, then took the plunge. "I've really enjoyed this, Catherine. Would you be open to doing it again sometime?" She thought for a moment, then nodded. "I would. But I think we should be transparent with Emma. I don't want her to feel like we're going behind her back." "Agreed. Actually, she knows I'm here today. She gave me her blessing, more or less." Catherine looked surprised. "That's mature of her." "She has her moments," I said with a smile. Between the door slamming and eye rolling. As we walked to the parking lot, Catherine turned to me. Jack, I want to be clear about something. If we continue to see each other, I'll make sure it never affects how I treat Emma in class. She won't get special treatment or worse treatment because of us. Her integrity impressed me. I wouldn't want it any other way. We said goodbye with another handshake, though this one lingered a moment longer than necessary. As I watched her drive away, I felt lighter than I had in years. When I got home, Emma was sprawled on the living room couch with her laptop, presumably working on homework. She looked up when I entered. "So," she asked, trying to sound casual, "how was coffee with Ms. Wilson?" I hung my jacket in the closet, buying time to formulate my answer. "It was nice. She spoke very highly of you, by the way." Emma rolled her eyes, but I could tell she was pleased. "What did she say about, the situation?" "She wants to be respectful of your position as her student." "We both do." I sat in the armchair across from her. "But we'd like to see each other again, if that's still okay with you." Emma was quiet for a moment, processing this information. "Just don't be weird about it, okay? No showing up at school or sending her embarrassing messages during class." I would never, I promised, grateful for her grudging acceptance. "And Emma? Thank you. I know this isn't easy." She shrugged, already turning back to her laptop. "Whatever. Just be happy, Dad." The simple statement hit me hard. Be happy. Was that possible again? I wasn't sure, but for the first time in 3 years, it felt like it might be. Over the next few weeks, Catherine and I developed a routine. Coffee on Saturday mornings, occasional midweek dinners at restaurants far from Emma's school, and daily text messages about our lives. We were careful, taking things slowly out of respect for both Emma and the memory of Sarah. Catherine never pushed for more than I was ready to give, and I appreciated her patience. On a crisp November evening, I invited her to dinner at my home for the first time. Emma would be at a friend's birthday sleepover, giving us privacy while still maintaining the boundaries we'd established. I spent the day cleaning, grocery shopping, and preparing my late father-in-law's famous lasagna recipe, one of the few dishes I could make well. Catherine arrived precisely at 7, bringing a bottle of red wine and a homemade apple pie for dessert. "My grandmother's recipe," she explained as I took her coat. "I stress-baked all afternoon. Meeting me at a cafe is one thing, but inviting me into your home, it feels significant." "It is," I admitted, leading her into the kitchen where the table was set with the good dishes, Sarah's wedding china that rarely saw use these days. But in a good way. Catherine looked around, taking in the family photos on the refrigerator, the children's artwork framed on the walls, the subtle touches of the life I'd built with Sarah. "Your home is lovely, Jack." "Thank you. It's seen a lot of life over the years." I poured her a glass of wine, suddenly nervous. "The lasagna needs another 10 minutes. Would you like a tour?" I showed her around the first floor, the living room with its well-worn leather couch, the dining room we only used for holidays, Sarah's small home office that I'd been unable to repurpose. Catherine moved through the spaces respectfully, commenting on small details, the collection of hardcover classics in the built-in bookshelves, the handprint artwork from when the kids were small, the photographs from family vacations to the Grand Canyon, Yellowstone, the Florida Keys. "You've had a beautiful life, Jack," she said softly as we stood before a family portrait taken on our 25th anniversary, just months before Sarah's diagnosis. "I have," I agreed, my throat tight with emotion. "I've been very fortunate." In the kitchen, we talked as I put the finishing touches on dinner. Catherine leaned against the counter, wine glass in hand, telling me about her 11th grader's creative responses to Macbeth. Her passion for teaching was evident in the way her eyes lit up describing their projects. "Emma chose to create a psychological profile of Lady Macbeth," she said. "It was incredibly insightful. She analyzed her motivations, her manipulation tactics, her eventual breakdown. Your daughter has a remarkable understanding of human nature." She gets that from Sarah, I said, placing the lasagna on the table. My wife was always good at reading people, understanding what made them tick. We sat down to eat, and I was relieved when Catherine made appreciative noises at her first bite. This is delicious, Jack. You've been holding out on me, you said you couldn't cook. I said I couldn't cook well, I corrected with a smile. This is literally the only impressive dish in my repertoire. Don't get used to it. The evening flowed easily after that, conversation moving from books to movies to our childhoods. Catherine had grown up in a small town in upstate New York, the daughter of a librarian and a high school science teacher. Education was practically the family business, she explained. There was never any question I'd become a teacher. Did you always want to teach high school? I asked, genuinely curious about the path she'd chosen. Actually, no. I thought I'd teach college literature. I got my master's and everything. But during student teaching, I fell in love with high school students, their energy, their perspectives, the way they're figuring out who they are. They're at this amazing crossroads between childhood and adulthood. She smiled, swirling the wine in her glass. What about you? Did you always want to go into construction? I nodded. From the time I was old enough to hold a hammer. My father started the company when I was 10, and I spent every summer working for him, learning the business from the ground up. He used to say I had sawdust in my veins instead of blood. That must have created a strong bond between you. It did, I agreed, remembering the long days working alongside my father, the pride in his eyes when I mastered a new skill. When he died unexpectedly, heart attack at 62, taking over the company felt like keeping a part of him alive. I'm sure he'd be proud of how you've grown it. After dinner, we moved to the living room with our wine and slices of Catherine's pie, which was every bit as delicious as she'd promised. We sat on the couch, closer than we had been before but still maintaining a respectful distance. Can I ask you something, Jack? Catherine said, setting down her empty plate. Of course. Do you think? She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. Do you think Sarah would mind? You and me, I mean. The question caught me off guard, but I appreciated her directness. I thought about it, really thought about what Sarah would want. No, I said finally. Sarah was practical, unsentimental about most things. Before she died, she told me not to spend the rest of my life alone. She made me promise, actually. I smiled at the memory. She said, Jack Harrison, you're too good a man to waste yourself on grief. Give yourself a year, maybe 2, but then get back out there. Catherine's eyes were soft in the dim living room light. She sounds like she was an extraordinary woman. She was. I took a deep breath. And she would like you, Catherine. Your independence, your passion for teaching, your kindness toward Emma. Those are all qualities she valued. We fell silent, the weight of Sarah's absence filling the space between us. Then Catherine reached over and took my hand, her fingers warm against mine. It was a simple gesture, but it felt monumental, the first real physical contact between us beyond our greeting handshakes. Thank you for sharing your home with me tonight, she said softly. And for sharing your stories about Sarah. I know that can't be easy. Actually, it's nice to talk about her with someone who didn't know her. Everyone else gets the look in their eyes, pity, or awkwardness, or they start reminiscing and I have to comfort them. I squeezed her hand gently. You just listen. Catherine smiled. I'd like to hear more about her sometime, if you're willing to share. I'd like that too. When it was time for her to leave, I walked her to the door. We stood there for a moment, the energy between us charged with possibility. Then, with gentle determination, Catherine leaned forward and kissed me. It was soft and brief, but it sent electricity through my body, a sensation I hadn't experienced in years. Good night, Jack, she whispered, stepping back with a smile. Good night, Catherine. I watched her car disappear down the street, my lips still tingling from our kiss. Inside, I began cleaning up, moving through the house with a lightness in my step that had been absent for too long. As I loaded the dishwasher, my phone buzzed with a text. Catherine, thank you for a lovely evening. Your lasagna was almost as good as your company. I smiled, typing back, the pleasure was mine. Drive safely. Later, as I got ready for bed, I found myself talking to Sarah the way I sometimes did when I was alone. I think you'd approve, Sarah, I said to the empty room. She's nothing like you, but I think that's good. I'm not trying to replace you. I could almost hear Sarah's practical voice. Of course you're not, you big goof. No one could replace me. But she makes you smile, and that's what matters. The following morning, I woke to the sound of Emma returning from her sleepover. I quickly made my way downstairs, hoping to hear about her night before she disappeared into the teenager vortex of her room. Morning, Dad, she yawned, dropping her overnight bag by the door. Is there coffee? Just made a fresh pot. I poured her a cup, adding the splash of cream and spoonful of sugar she preferred. How was the party? Fun. Exhausting. Jess's parents got her a karaoke machine, so we were up until like 3 singing Taylor Swift songs. She took the coffee gratefully, leaning against the counter. Then her eyes narrowed suspiciously. Why are the good dishes in the dish drainer? I'd forgotten to put them away last night. I had company for dinner. Ms. Wilson? Emma asked, suddenly more awake. Yes. Catherine came over for dinner. Emma was quiet for a moment, processing this information. Then, to my surprise, she asked, Did you make Grandpa's lasagna? I did. Did she like it? She did. Emma nodded, as if confirming something to herself. Good. It's your best dish. She took another sip of coffee. So, are you guys, officially dating now? The question was direct, typical Emma. We're getting to know each other. Taking things slowly. But you like her? I met my daughter's eyes, seeing Sarah in them. Yes, Emma. I like her very much. Emma considered this, then shrugged. Okay. Just don't get all gross and PDAY at school functions. I would never dream of it, I promised solemnly. She picked up her bag and headed for the stairs, then paused. Dad? Yes? I'm glad you're not lonely anymore. Before I could respond, she disappeared upstairs, leaving me standing in the kitchen with a lump in my throat and a heart full of gratitude for my perceptive, complicated, wonderful daughter. Over the next few months, Catherine became a regular presence in our lives. She joined us for Sunday dinners, helped Emma with college application essays, and even accompanied me to one of Daniel's engineering showcases at Penn State. My children accepted her with a grace that humbled me, and for the first time since Sarah died, our house felt truly alive again. It wasn't without complications. There were awkward moments at school events where Catherine had to maintain professional distance. There were nights when I woke reaching for Sarah, only to remember she was gone. There were days when Emma struggled with seeing her teacher in our home, the boundaries between school and family life blurring in ways that sometimes confused her. But we navigated these challenges together, with honesty and patience. Catherine never tried to take Sarah's place. She brought her own books to read beside mine in bed, chose her own spot at the kitchen table, created her own traditions with the children. When Emma was accepted to NYU, her dream school, it was Catherine who suggested we frame the acceptance letter and hang it beside Daniel's Penn State one in the hallway. On a snowy evening in February, 6 months after our first coffee date, I took Catherine to dinner at the restaurant where Sarah and I had celebrated our last anniversary. It felt right, somehow, to honor the past while embracing the future. After dessert, I reached across the table and took her hand. Catherine, these past months have been. I searched for the right words. They've been a gift I never expected to receive. You've brought joy back into my life, into my family's life. Her eyes softened. Jack. Let me finish, please. I know this might seem fast to some people, but at our age, we know what we want, what matters. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. I'm not asking you to marry me. Not yet. But I am asking for a promise that we'll continue building this life together, see where it leads us. I opened the box, revealing a delicate sapphire ring that had once belonged to my grandmother. Catherine's eyes filled with tears as I continued. This is a promise ring. A symbol of what we've found together and what I hope we'll continue to discover. Will you accept it? Yes, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Yes, Jack. I slipped the ring onto her finger, and across the restaurant, our waiter, who'd been watching discreetly, broke into applause, causing several other diners to join in. Catherine laughed through her tears, squeezing my hand tightly. I love you, Jack Harrison, she said, the first time either of us had spoken those words aloud. And I love you, Catherine Wilson. Later that night, as we stood in my art kitchen, Catherine asked the question I knew had been on her mind. Have you told Emma and Daniel about the ring? I spoke with both of them last week, I assured her. Asked for their blessing. And they gave it? The vulnerability in her voice touched me deeply. Daniel said it was about time. Emma asked if she could still call you Ms. Wilson at school. Catherine laughed, the tension leaving her shoulders. And what did you tell her? I told her that was between the two of you. I pulled her close, breathing in the scent of her perfume. They care about you, Catherine. They see how happy you make me. They make me happy too, she said softly. This whole beautiful life you've created, I'm honored to be part of it. That night, as Catherine slept beside me, I found myself thinking about the winding path that had led us here. How a simple dating app, the stupid dating app Emma had once railed against, had connected me to this remarkable woman. How the awkwardness of dating my daughter's teacher had given way to something profound and lasting. How life could surprise you with second chances when you least expected them. Sarah would be pleased, I thought. Not because I'd replaced her, no one ever could, but because I'd found the courage to open my heart again. Because our children were thriving, our home was filled with laughter, and the future, once so bleak, now stretched before us filled with possibility. In the morning, I would wake beside Catherine, make coffee for the two of us, and continue building this new chapter of my life. Emma would roll her eyes at our domestic contentment but secretly approve. Daniel would call from college with his latest engineering triumph, and Catherine would listen with genuine interest. We would plan our summer hiking trip, discuss Catherine's eventual move into our home, debate paint colors for the guest room. It wouldn't be perfect. There would still be days of grief, moments of adjustment, challenges to overcome. But we would face them together, this unexpected family we were creating. As I drifted toward sleep, I felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over me. For Sarah, who had loved me enough to want me to find happiness after she was gone. For Emma and Daniel, who had opened their hearts to Catherine despite their initial reservations. For Catherine herself, who had taken a chance on a widowed construction company owner with emotional baggage and two almost grown children. And yes, even for that stupid dating app that had started it all. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left.